Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Welcome to The Ray Taylor Show, where I bring you the reviews on the latest movies and TV shows, as well as classic and foreign films. I'm your host, Ray Taylor, and on this podcast, I'll be talking about all things film and television. Whether you're looking for a new show to binge or want to know if that blockbuster is worth a trip to the theater, or just want to hear my thoughts on a classic or foreign film, I've got you covered. So join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for new episodes, and let's dive into the world of film and television together. On this episode, I am talking about the Indian film Talaash. The Answer Lies Within. I may have pronounced that wrong, but I think it's Talaash. This came out in 2012, so a little over a decade ago. It's directed by Reema Kagti. It is written by Farhan Akhtar, Anurag Kashyap, and Zoya Khakhtar. Sorry if I brutalize all those. This stars Aamir Khan, Rani Mukerji, and Kareena Kapoor. And I'm a big fan of Aamir Khan. The reason why I watched this was because he is the star of this movie, and it was available on Netflix. And at some point, I am going to rank my favorite Aamir Khan films as I feel I watch more of them, and I've watched a good amount of them. I am a big fan of his and the movies he's in. I have watched many of them already. Three Idiots, one of my all-time favorite movies after having seen that in the past year. So many great movies, and it's been a while since I've watched and reviewed an Indian film, so I was looking for something that I could sink my teeth into, and this one looked very interesting. This is set in the jumbled landscape of Mumbai. The mystery drama centers around a police inspector who's trying to cope with the collapse of his marriage while trying to solve this mysterious death of an actor. So mystery and, kind of in some ways like a neo-noir in ways. But it looked interesting, so I checked it out. Overall, like I said, a huge fan of Aamir Khan. I enjoyed this movie okay up until the end. And in the end, this movie comes together in a way that made me love it. This is a solid mystery. Just kind of takes a while for everything to pay off. As I said, it really wraps up well at the end. But I would say well worth it. Great movie. And really the end is what made me love this movie. And there was a movie I watched recently. I can't remember exactly what it was. But it's an interesting thing where a movie you're watching is kind of just like mediocre. It's like it's okay, right? It's okay. There are aspects of it where maybe you're questioning the reason certain things are even in it. And then by the end, everything makes sense. Everything is utilized. Everything is wrapped up so nicely. Makes me really enjoy it. And this movie was kind of that for me. Aamir Khan plays this cop / detectives. He's investigating this mysterious death of an actor. He can't sleep because of this trauma that he has from his son's death during a tragic boating accident. Right? And it seems like he's a by-the-book cop, right? He's a good guy, a good cop, right? And wants to do good. And his marriage is suffering because he doesn't sleep. He puts all of his energy into his work. He's haunted by the shoulda, coulda, wouldas in regards to his son's death, right? Constantly running through all of the things he could have done differently that may have been able to prevent his son from dying, right? And like most Indian films, it doesn't shy away from adding a lot of complexity to the story, right? Touching on multiple genres, and like usual, they make it work. And the runtime, it's a little long. I mean, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, so not super long for an Indian film. About average length, I would say. And it does kind of involve a lot of different aspects, kind of bringing in different aspects to this movie that at first seemed unnecessary, but again, by the end, I really loved it. Right, there's just a lot of setup, right? Which I didn't even realize they were setting things up while I watched it. Like there were aspects of this movie that I just didn't get while they were in the movie, and then by the end, I was like, oh, that was perfect. That perfectly set up everything for the end. So I think the end of this movie is the key that really brings it all together. And it like really elevates the movie, takes it from just like a good investigative mystery drama, and then kind of elevates it with the everything that comes together at the end that makes it even better. And again, another great performance from Aamir Khan playing the troubled police investigator. And the only thing that could have made this movie better, I would say, is to have more of a unique visual style to the directing. Because the writing, I think, is great. The acting, I think, is great. But if this had like a David Fincher or Christopher Nolan, had more of a stylized direction, had, camera movements and shot selection and things like that, I think it really could have elevated this movie because everything else is great. Everything else pops, especially at the end. And if it had like a more interesting visual style to it, I think it would have it would have made this movie even better. And that's just a minor. I don't think it needs that, but it's the only thing I could think of while watching this that I would have thought could improve, make this movie just a little bit better, right? And make it just like elevate this movie in a whole nother stratosphere, I think. What starts out as like this case of an actor dying kind of turns into a much bigger story in a lot of ways, right? It's when everything's tied together, the explanation for what happened to that, the mystery of what happened to that actor is involved with all of the other aspects of the movie, which I really enjoy, which I do want to get into specifics of this movie to kind of get into spoilers. So I want to give a warning from here on out. I'm going to be talking about spoilers. I do enjoy this movie. It's been out for a decade, so I'd imagine if you haven't seen it, you probably, or if you've wanted to see something like this, you probably would have already. But if you're looking for a good mystery, you like mysteries, you like kind of this crime drama mystery type of a movie, I'd highly recommend checking it out. If you haven't seen it, it's great. And if you're not really hooked necessarily, I would say by the end, everything is so satisfyingly wrapped together at the end that it's well worth it. So I'd recommend this movie. But I do want to get into the spoilers. So spoiler warnings from here on out. The red light district plays a big part of this movie, right? It's where the car accident happens with the actor, which the crash scene with the car, how it like, in a very weird way, looks like it goes out of control and then runs up the steps and flies into the ocean like that. Just a very unique, very kind of weird way in which that car went out of control and crashed is one of the many things that gets explained in such a satisfying way, where it's like, oh, that makes complete sense why it did that. At the end, you have Aamir Khan, the cop, right? This celebrity dies alone, he's never alone. So, right, instantly makes it mysterious, gives him leads, trying to track down. So a lot of this is kind of seeing how Aamir Khan is not only investigating the leads, but then also seeing how his personal life is having issues, his marriage is having issues, and then we're also seeing the stories of the other people who are involved in the bigger story of what's really going on. They have other unexplained accidents have happened on that road in the same place. You have the dog who has like this premonition, right? So there is like a level of like this supernatural aspect of it, which I really didn't see coming until the end. Like even when the psychic is introduced and is doing the readings for his wife, I just thought, like, what I thought was happening was the Aamir Khan's character was being hustled by this prostitute, and his wife was being hustled by this psychic. But when I found out that it was kind of a parallel thing that was going on, that both of these people were going through, but that both of those things were legitimate and both of those things were supernatural, right? Rosie being a ghost and the psychic actually having that ability. But that psychic character is something that I thought was unnecessary. It's like, what is going on? I thought it was, right, I thought when I initially thought the psychic was there to kind of illustrate how both of these people are being duped by these different people, taking advantage, both of these people are taking advantage of this couple because of their trauma from losing their son. I thought it was just kind of an unnecessary addition to the movie. But then when I realized that it was really just kind of setting up the supernatural aspect of this movie and setting up the fact that, you know, people who have died can communicate in ways, some ways, depending on how they die, some ways they can come back in physical form like Rosie does, or they can come back and communicate through a medium like this psychic woman. So it's like when everything came together at the end, I was like, oh, because there is a moment before the end where I realize when he helps the other prostitute and she doesn't know who Rosie is, right? And it's kind of explained away as like, oh, she's Rosie one day and then she's this person the other day, that they changed their names. Like, I was like, it was in that moment where I was like, okay, Rosie's probably a ghost, right? And it's so well done. It's so well done. All of the supernatural stuff where it's not at all seemingly part of the story. So when the psychic is introduced, it does feel like she's just being duped. She's being taken advantage of by this person who is scamming her, pretending that she can contact her son. And when it's all flipped on its head at the end is perfect, right? And you even see the dog having the premonition at the beginning. It was like, oh, sure, the dog's like knew something weird was going to happen way before it happened, right? Sure. So all those supernatural aspects were great. Let's take a quick break from this episode to talk about, are you a fan of art, movies, and all things entertainment? Then you need to check out youtube.com/inspired disorder. Our page is jam-packed with all kinds of great content, including making of videos of the many faces, an ongoing art series of abstract ink paintings. But that's not all. We also feature daily episodes from The Ray Taylor Show, a podcast that brings you movie reviews, TV show reviews, episode recaps, opinions on news and entertainment, and much more. There's also a weekly diary and top 5 movie rankings of a variety of categories. And if that wasn't enough, we've also got how-to videos covering all kinds of topics. So why wait? Head on over to youtube.com/inspired disorder and start exploring the amazing content we have to offer. And now back to the show. And him going on the drive after the neighbor mentions the kid, right? And he's like angry because his wife is assuming to be duped by this person, and you're seeing the events that happen. He's recalling the memory of the kid, how that another crazy boat, the way the boat crashes is almost as crazy as how the car crashes at the beginning of the movie. And how he ends up, while he's thinking of this, of how his son died, he just ends up at the red light district, and that's when he meets Kareena Kapoor playing Rosie, which, watching this, I'm glad that I'm finally have watched enough movies from India that I'm recognizing actors. I was like, she looks so familiar. What movies is she from? So I looked up Kareena Kapoor, and she plays the Jenny character in the Forrest Gump remake, Lal Singh Chadha, which I enjoyed. I didn't think it was quite as good as Forrest Gump, but I did like the take on that movie. And she plays the Jenny character. She plays Rupa in that. And then also she played Pia, the love interest in 3 Idiots. It's like, oh, this is perfect. So, of course, they've worked together. Aamir Khan's worked with her before in other movies. Great to see her in this as Rosie, the prostitute, the ghost, right? And then also, I was like, his partner kind of looked like a guy, like the dude from Monica, Oh My Darling, which was probably the last Indian film I watched, which is another fun, like, mystery film. And he was also in Stree, which was a movie I watched last October when I was reviewing Indian horror films. And so it's great to see both of these actors. I was like, they look so familiar. Where are they from? So it's great to see them in this movie as well. That other guy who is his partner, really. So great. So seeing Kareena Kapoor, she's Rosie, she's the prostitute. Great in this as well. Right, and I kind of made me feel good. It's like, yeah, finally, like, at first, because, like, Aamir Khan was an easy standout, especially once I saw Three Idiots. I was like, oh, that guy is super. I think that was, like, Three Idiots was, like, the second or third movie. I think I watched it after the Bahubali, the two Bahubali movies. Like, RR, Bahubali, and I think Three Idiots was. So it was one of the first movies I had seen, and he instantly stood out as Rancho in Three Idiots, and just I've loved him, Aamir Khan, in everything that he's been in. Lagan, the Dangal, God, there's even the Lalchin, the Forrest Gump one, the Lal Singh Chadha movie was great. Everything I've seen him in, he's great. Even the Mystery Singer movie, where he plays like a douchebag producer, but it's like he's not really a douche. He's actually kind of a nice guy. He was nice in that one too. He's a small part in it, but I like everything Aamir Khan's in. So definitely one of the reasons I was drawn to this movie. But anyway, they have, like, even when to go back to the wife and the psychic lady who does this like seance, and she's doing this like automatic writing thing. It just, like, I couldn't help but, like, oh, it's like so sad that she's taking advantage of this woman. Like, this movie, it sets it up so well, and I think intentionally makes you feel like she's being scammed, right? Her husband, when he finds out, he thinks she's being scammed as well. I'm right there with Aamir Khan's characters. Like, she's being scammed. This woman doesn't communicate with anybody. This is ridiculous. But it turns out he was wrong. Turns out. When that reveal happens, like, oh, that's perfect. It's perfect. It like got me. It got me. And then there's even a moment where, just like the psychic knew that the wife was dealing with trauma, like the Rosie had kind of, was able to identify that what's Aamir Khan's character in this? Let's see. I forget who his name was. Surjan. I don't think they ever say his name in this movie. But when she, like, knew that he was dealing with trauma as well, it was like, I just thought it was another part of that mirroring how these two characters were being played by these other people. And it was I was on the mark but off, right? I knew there was a relation between the two, but I didn't know the reality of the relation between the two, right? That they weren't actually being played. And even his relationship with Rosie is almost like a therapist. Like, she's the one person that feels comfortable opening up to, and he, like, seemingly gets the first good night of sleep he's ever had. Like, we've seen him, like, wake up from nightmares. We've heard that he just stays up all night driving around, right? Doesn't sleep because he's haunted by his son's death. And it's not until he opens up to Rosie and she kind of lulls him to sleep by, like, petting his hair, and he wakes up the next morning completely refreshed. It is almost as if she was acting as a therapist for him in that moment, right? Very, very interesting. Meanwhile, the wife is actually going to a therapist. And it's when he helps that other prostitute who supposedly got paid off and was freed from having to work for that madam. But when Amir Khan's character goes and frees her, knocks that guy out, which I thought was great, and then kind of helps her get away from that, is when I realized that Rosie's probably like, okay, I see where this movie's going. Like, I've seen enough to where it's like I'm putting the pieces together, right? And then remembering the psychic mentioning that some souls appear to people who are desperate. But because that girl didn't know who Rosie was, I was like, okay, this makes sense. Let's take a quick break from this episode because I want to talk about, are you looking to add some unique and expressive artwork to your home, office, or wardrobe? Look no further than the Many Faces series by Ray Taylor. That's me. These abstract paintings on paper explore the endless possibilities of the human face, capturing unique expressions of emotion, mood, tone, and energy in just a few minimal features. Now you can bring these stunning and thought-provoking pieces into your own space with high-quality prints and t-shirts, featuring designs from the Many Faces series. Or take home a one-of-a-kind original piece for your collection. Don't miss out on this opportunity to add some original and expressive artwork to your home, office, or wardrobe. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com to browse and purchase original artworks, prints, and t-shirts from the Many Faces series today. And now, back to the show. And there was a nice bit of action when the disabled guy, that whole storyline with the disabled guy who's found out that that other dude was getting paid off and was going to blackmail them the same way. And his plan to swap bags with the other prostitute was great. And him like trying to get away on the kneeboard thing. Fun little action foot chase. And the moment where Rosie appears at the end kind of seems like that's another aspect where I was like, it seems like she's killed and she is a ghost. And that's why that guy fell off, because he knew that she was a ghost and it scared him and he fell back. Kind of a great set piece, that whole chase and how it ends. Seeing how the one guy falls at one of the hitman guy trips and falls and busts his head. And then Aamir Khan's character gets to kind of interrogate him, get the information out of him at the hospital. Kind of a great scene in that. Because it's like a part of it makes me want this disabled guy and this prostitute to get the money and get away with it. Because they're getting money from the people who are covering up the murder of this actor. And seeing who that person is kind of crazy as well. But again, the way everything comes together in the end, so great. The way it explains how that car loses control in such a specific way, where at first it seems ridiculous, like they just filmed this in a way that looks cheesy. But then when you see how it happens with Aamir Khan's character, when he's taking that guy, when he's taking the suspect that was being blackmailed, I don't know if he was the brother of the actor or he's related to the actor in some way and was there when Rosie died. And when she appears in the road at that same spot and he loses control to avoid him, because in the same way the actor saw her in the street, freaked out because he thought she was dead and drove off. It is in the same way that Aamir Khan's character sees her and is like, oh no, it doesn't want to hit her. And it's just so perfectly done how that reveal goes. And great, the action of that moment where he loses control and flies into the ocean just like the actor did. And it turns into like the contrast that it turns into like this very serene, peaceful moment where Rosie kind of swims to him and helps him get out of the car, right? It went from like this chaotic action moment to this very peaceful, tranquil kind of a moment where she saves him, right? And it just, the way everything gets tied together is so good. You know, set up great with the psychic and the sun, right? Planting all of the seeds so that when it all comes together, it makes complete sense. And you get that cathartic thing where, knowing it's true, he finally reads the letter that his son wrote him, and he's able to let go. Like, it's his son forgiving him, telling him there was nothing he could do. So all of those thoughts of him running through the different scenarios of how he could have handled that situation differently, how instead of falling asleep, if he just went with the kids, or if he told them to stay and play checkers, if he had handled it right in a different way, it just, like, all of this blame and fault was put on himself, and the kid being like, listen, there's nothing you could do. It was an accident. Don't worry about it. It's such a good cathartic and very good ugly cry from Aamir Khan as well. But a great end, like, the end of this movie. Like, I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it. It was interesting. I was like, oh, let's see where this goes. And then when everything comes together in such a perfect way, I was like, oh, this is great. It's great. I love a movie that is able to, the conclusion of the film is so, like, cathartic and meaningful and worthwhile. And this movie fulfilled on all that. I really did enjoy this movie, right? At first, it felt like just kind of an average mystery, but then the end completely turned everything around for me, made it even better, right? That big aha moment that usually happens, like, at the end of the mystery, where the detective uncovers everything, and usually it's a situation where he's like, it's a lot of exposition, but in the way this movie does that aha moment, just shows you, right? Instead of just having characters tell you, it shows you everything as it's put together. And we see all of the scenes that Aamir Khan was with Rosie, and seeing how all the people who were looking at him weird were doing so not because he was talking to a prostitute, but it was because he was talking to himself, which is, like, you know, that has, like, a Fight Club kind of a feel to it, right? Where he realized, like, oh, I was having a fight with myself. So great. Another great movie from Aamir Khan, and I'm excited to watch more of his movies so I can finally do a top 5 episode. There's still a bunch of his movies that are, I mean, they're highly rated, and I want to go through all of them, or as many as I can. I'm sure he's been in a lot of movies that I will not get through all of them, but I enjoyed, like, he's, as far as the types of movies, and it was his production company that was involved with this, so not surprising that it was good, but it seems like he chooses interesting films. He chooses films, and a lot of them are, like, kind of out of the box, rebellious types characters, especially like Rancho in Three Idiots. So I enjoy the characters that he plays and the movies, and I'm trying to think of that one that was like the revolutionary movie where he's filming a documentary that's, you know, recreating like a revolution that happened earlier in the history of where he lives, and it turns into these characters actually rebelling against what they see happens when their friend, who's a pilot, gets killed, and finding out that the government is using shitty planes and pilots are dying left and right, and they're doing nothing to protect the people, and they end up becoming revolutionaries. Such a great movie. That's another one that really flipped it on its head, where I was like, this is an interesting movie, and then seeing how it layers on top of itself. Great movie. I forget what that movie's called, but an amazing one with Aamir Khan. I'm sure if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But either way, I enjoyed this movie a lot. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of The Ray Taylor Show. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Talaash, The Secret Lies Within. Is that what it's called? The Answer Lies Within. The subtitle of this, in some ways, implies supernatural, kind of. The Answer Lies Within. I don't know. It's an interesting subtitle, but either way, I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on it. Don't forget to tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for more movie and TV show reviews, and join the conversation by leaving a comment or rating on your favorite podcast platform, or if you're watching this over on youtube.com/inspireddisorder, make sure you subscribe and check out all of my reviews and join the conversation by doing all those things. But until next time, enjoy your show.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring